The crisp autumn air nipped at Olivia Reed's cheeks as she hurried up the stairs to the tiny fourth-floor apartment she shared with Jasper Wright. Her arms were laden with art supplies for tomorrow's therapy session with her trauma recovery group. As a dedicated art therapist at the community center, Olivia found purpose in helping others heal through creative expression. Even if the pay barely covered her student loan payments, she fumbled with her keys, balancing the canvas boards precariously against her hip. Before she could manage to unlock the door, it swung open, revealing Jasper's warm, inviting smile. "Perfect timing," he said, reaching for her supplies. "I was about to call you." The apartment smelled of garlic and rosemary, and Olivia noticed. The small dining table was set with their mismatched plates and 2 flickering candles. "What's all this?" she asked, setting down her bag and unwinding her scarf. Jasper ran a hand through his unruly dark hair, a nervous habit she'd grown to love. Over their 2 years together. "Just thought we could have a proper dinner for once, instead of eating over the sink or in front of your laptop." At 32, Jasper was unlike anyone Olivia had ever dated. The son of a mechanic and a high school teacher, he'd worked his way through engineering school, graduating with honors and a head full of ideas that could change the world. Now he split his time between a part-time position at an environmental engineering firm and developing his own sustainable water filtration technology in their cramped living space. Dinner was simple but delicious pasta with a sauce Jasper had learned from his Italian grandmother. They talked about their days, laughing about Olivia's most challenging client and Jasper's latest laboratory mishap. "You know," Olivia said, twirling pasta around her fork, "Mom called again today. Asked if I was still wasting my time with that inventor boy." Jasper's smile faltered slightly. "And what did you tell the illustrious Eleanor Reed this time?" "That I've never been happier wasting my time," she replied, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. Eleanor and Richard Reed lived in a world of country club memberships and charity galas. Their daughter dating someone who didn't come from money, who didn't attend the right schools or know the right people, was an ongoing source of tension. After dinner, Jasper grew strangely quiet as they washed dishes side by side. "Everything okay?" Olivia asked, bumping his hip playfully with hers. "Actually," he said, drying his hands on a dish towel, "there's something I wanted to talk to you about." He led her to their small balcony, where strings of fairy lights illuminated the potted plants and second-hand furniture. The city sprawled. Below them, a tapestry of lights against the darkening sky. "I've been thinking a lot about us," Jasper began, taking both her hands in his. "About our future." Olivia felt her heart quicken as Jasper dropped to one knee, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "It's not much," he said, opening the box to reveal a delicate silver band with a small moonstone at its center. "I designed it myself and had a friend at the metalworking studio help me cast it. The stone is from that beach where we had our first weekend away." Tears filled Olivia's eyes as she stared at the ring, simple, meaningful, perfectly them. "Olivia Reed, I don't have much to offer in terms of material things, but I promise to love you completely every day of our lives. Will you marry me?" "Yes," she whispered, dropping to her knees to kiss him as he slid the ring onto her finger. 1,000 times yes. The next morning, still floating on the happiness of their engagement, Olivia made the call she'd been dreading. Her mother answered on the 3rd ring, her voice crisp and formal as always. "Olivia, darling, what a pleasant surprise." "Mom, I have news," Olivia said, watching Jasper prepare coffee in their kitchen. "Jasper and I are engaged." The silence that followed felt eternal. "I see," Eleanor finally said, her tone suddenly glacial. "And what exactly does this person plan to provide?" "For you?" "Love, Mom, respect, partnership. All the things that actually matter. Your father and I would like to meet with both of you. Properly, Eleanor declared, ignoring Olivia's response. Dinner at Bellini's. Tomorrow night at 7. As Olivia hung up, a sense of unease settled in her stomach. She knew her parents too well to believe this dinner was about welcoming Jasper into the family. They want to meet us tomorrow night, she told Jasper, accepting the mug of coffee he offered. At Bellini's? His eyes widened slightly. Bellini's was the kind of restaurant where entrees cost more than their weekly grocery budget. Should I be worried? He asked with a half-smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Olivia wrapped her arms around his waist, breathing in the comforting scent of him. Just be yourself. They'll see what I see in you. But as she said it, she couldn't quite convince herself it would be that simple. Bellini's glittered with crystal chandeliers and old money. Olivia squeezed Jasper's hand reassuringly as they followed the mater d' to a corner table where Eleanor and Richard Reed sat waiting. Her mother, impeccably dressed in a designer suit, her silver-streaked hair styled in a perfect bob, barely smiled as they approached. Richard, imposing in his tailored suit, stood with practiced politeness. Olivia, Eleanor said, air-kissing her daughter's cheek. And this must be Justin. Jasper, Mom, Jasper Wright. An awkward silence followed as they took their seats. Olivia noticed how the waiter brought her parents their usual drinks without asking. So, young man, Richard began, eyeing Jasper over his scotch. Olivia tells us you're in ... engineering? Environmental engineering, yes, sir, Jasper replied. I'm working on developing affordable water filtration systems for communities without access to clean water. How noble, Eleanor commented, her tone suggesting anything but admiration. And this pays well, does it? Jasper shifted uncomfortably. Not yet, but the potential impact is significant. One working prototype could help thousands of people. Impact doesn't pay bills, Richard stated flatly. What's your family background? The questions continued through appetizers and into the main course, each one designed to expose what Eleanor and Richard clearly saw as inadequacies. Olivia felt herself growing increasingly tense as she watched Jasper trying to maintain his dignity. When dessert arrived, Richard set down his fork and leaned forward. Let me be direct, right? My daughter comes from a certain background with certain expectations. She's been groomed for a particular kind of life. Dad, please, Olivia began. No, let me finish, Richard cut her off. We've invested considerably in Olivia's future. Private schools, cotillion, the right connections. And now she brings home a man who tinkers with pipes in a studio apartment. Eleanor's perfectly manicured hand reached for her wineglass. What my husband means is that we question your motivations. Our daughter stands to inherit quite a substantial estate. Jasper's face flushed. With all due respect, Mrs. Red, I love your daughter for who she is, not what she might inherit. How convenient for you to say, Eleanor replied, her voice dripping with disdain. We've seen your type before. Dreamers with big ideas and empty pockets, looking for someone to fund their fantasy. Without warning, Eleanor lifted her wineglass and tipped its contents across the table, splashing red wine across Jasper's white shirt. Mother! Olivia gasped in horror. Oops, Eleanor said with cold eyes. How clumsy of me. Richard threw his napkin on the table and stood. Olivia, when you come to your senses, give us a call. Until then, don't expect our support, emotional or financial, for this farce of an engagement. As her parents stalked away, leaving them with the bill, Olivia saw the restaurant patrons staring. Tears of humiliation burned in her eyes as she reached for Jasper's hand. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Jasper, wine staining his shirt, squeezed her hand. It's not your fault, he said quietly. But I think we just got a glimpse of our future. If we continue, Are you having second thoughts? She asked, her heart sinking. About you? Never. About dealing with your parents for the next 40 years? He gave a small, sad smile. That might take some getting used to. The next morning, Olivia's phone exploded with notifications. Her bank account access had been restricted. Her credit cards co-signed by her father had been canceled. By afternoon, her cousin Teresa called. Liv, what's this I hear about you throwing your life away on some fortune hunter? Aunt Eleanor is beside herself. Over the following weeks, the campaign intensified. Family members she'd been close with suddenly became distant. Childhood friends who ran in her parents' social circles stopped returning her calls. Even her landlord received an anonymous tip suggesting Olivia might not be able to make rent soon. The final blow came in the form of an ivory envelope delivered to their apartment. Inside was a letter on Eleanor's monogram stationery. Olivia, as you have chosen to disregard our guidance and associate yourself with someone so clearly beneath our family standing, we find ourselves unable to witness this disaster unfold. Do not expect our presence at your wedding, nor any support henceforth. When this ill-advised union inevitably fails, do not come crying to us. Until then, consider yourself no daughter of ours. Eleanor and Richard Reed. That night, Olivia sobbed in Jasper's arms, torn between rage and heartbreak. Maybe they're right, she cried. Maybe I am making a terrible mistake. Jasper pulled back, looking into her eyes. Do you believe that? Because if you do, I'll walk away right now. I never wanted to come between you and your family. Olivia thought about her parents' conditional love, about the years she'd spent trying to meet their impossible standards. Then she looked at Jasper Honest, hard-working, kind Jasper, who loved her exactly as she was. No, she said finally. The only mistake would be letting them dictate my happiness. She tore the letter in half and let the pieces fall to the floor. So we do this without them, she said, determination replacing her tears. We build our own family on our own terms. Planning a wedding without family support proved more challenging than Olivia had anticipated. Each tradition became a painful reminder of her parents' absence. No father to walk her down the aisle. No mother to help choose her dress. No family to fill her side of the ceremony. We could just elope, Jasper suggested one evening, finding Olivia surrounded by budget spreadsheets at their kitchen table. Save the money, skip the heartache. She looked up, considering. Is that what you want? I want whatever makes you happy, he replied, sitting beside her. But I don't need a big ceremony to know I want to spend my life with you. In the end, they compromised a small ceremony at a community garden, with 30 guests consisting mainly of Jasper's family and their closest friends. Olivia's best friend Daniela stepped in as her maid of honor, accompanying her to sample cakes and try on dresses. This one, Daniela declared when Olivia emerged from the dressing room in a simple lace gown that cost a fraction of what her mother would have expected. You look radiant. As Olivia stared at her reflection, she couldn't help wondering if her mother would have approved. The thought brought unexpected tears. Hey, Daniela said gently, this is about you and Jasper, not them. The morning of the wedding arrived with perfect autumn weather. Jasper's mother, Vera, helped Olivia with her hair, weaving flowers into her updo with practiced hands. I always wanted a daughter, Vera confessed, meeting Olivia's eyes in the mirror. Now I have one. The ceremony was simple but beautiful. When the officiant asked who was giving the bride away, Daniela stepped forward. She gives herself, with the blessing of those who truly love her, she announced, causing a fresh wave of tears among the guests. Jasper waited at the makeshift altar, his eyes never leaving Olivia as she walked toward him. When she reached him, he whispered, You're all the family I need. Their vows were heartfelt, their kiss passionate. The reception that followed was modest but joyful potluck dishes brought by friends. Music played through borrowed speakers, dancing under strings of fairy lights as the sun set. Jasper's father, Thomas, a man of few words, surprised everyone by giving a toast. "To my new daughter," he said, raising his glass. "Thank you for seeing in my son what we've always known was there. Your family may be blind, but we see you both clearly." Later, as they swayed together for their first dance, Olivia felt a strange mix of emotions: joy at marrying the man she loved, grief for the family relationships she'd lost, and determination to build something meaningful from the ashes. The reality of their situation settled in during the months that followed. Living on their combined modest incomes meant strict budgeting. Jasper continued working on his filtration system in their small apartment, the kitchen table often covered with components and blueprints. Olivia picked up extra therapy clients, sometimes working evenings and weekends to make ends meet. There were nights when the strain showed. Arguments about money. Moments of doubt when Olivia would catch Jasper staring at his prototype with frustration after another failed test. "Maybe I should just give it up," he said one night after a particularly discouraging rejection letter from a potential investor. "Get a regular 9 to 5 like a normal person." Olivia sat beside him on their worn couch. "Is that what you want?" "What I want is to not be the reason you're estranged from your family," he admitted. "To not be the reason you're working 60-hour weeks. My parents made their choice," she reminded him. "And I made mine. I chose you, your passion, your vision, your heart. Don't you dare give up now." She took his face in her hands, kissing him deeply. That night, they made love with a desperate intensity, reaffirming their commitment to each other and the life they'd chosen together. In the morning, Jasper woke with renewed determination. "One more prototype," he promised. "One more chance." Olivia smiled, running her fingers through his sleep-tousled hair. "That's the man I married." Winter melted into spring, and with it came unexpected news. Jasper burst into the apartment one Tuesday evening, his face alight with an excitement Olivia hadn't seen in months. "It works," he announced, dropping his bag and lifting her off her feet in a spinning hug. The final prototype, it passed all the testing parameters. His filtration system, designed to be affordable, portable, and capable of removing multiple contaminants without electricity, had finally achieved the benchmarks needed for practical application. After months of rejections and setbacks, this success felt monumental. "We need to celebrate," Olivia declared, pulling a bottle of wine they'd been saving for a special occasion from their tiny pantry. "That's not all," Jasper continued, accepting the glass she offered. "Dr. Harrington from the university connected me with someone at Global Water Solutions. They want to see a demonstration next week." GWS was a major player in international water quality initiatives. Their interest could mean everything for Jasper's invention. The following week was a blur of preparation. Olivia helped Jasper rehearse his presentation, offering encouragement when his nerves threatened to overwhelm him. "Remember why you created this," she reminded him the night before the meeting. "Not for profit, but for people who need clean water." The demonstration exceeded all expectations. The GWS representatives were impressed not only by the technology, but by Jasper's passionate articulation of its potential applications in developing regions. 2 days later, he received the call they'd been hoping for. "They want to partner with ME," he announced, his voice shaking as he hung up the phone. "Full development rights, manufacturing capability, distribution channels, everything we need to get this into communities that need it." The contract GWS offered was generous and immediate signing bonus, ongoing royalties, and a position for Jasper on their research and development team. For the first time in their marriage, financial worry lifted from their shoulders. Their first major purchase was a proper workspace for Jasper. Their second was a down payment on a modest but comfortable house with an actual yard, a far cry from their cramped apartment. As Jasper's invention gained recognition, other opportunities followed. Environmental organizations sought his expertise. Universities invited him to speak. A feature in Scientific American highlighted his journey from struggling inventor to innovator, making real-world impact. Through it all, Olivia watched the man she'd married grow into his potential, never forgetting the difficult path that had brought them here. You know what's ironic? Jasper said one evening as they sat on the porch of their new home. Your parents thought I was after your money, but it turns out I'm the one who ended up with unexpected success. Olivia leaned against his shoulder. It was never unexpected. To me, I always knew what you were capable of. As their financial situation stabilized, they began discussing starting a family, a dream they'd previously put on hold due to uncertainty. When Olivia discovered she was pregnant that autumn, their joy felt complete. I wish they could see us now, Olivia admitted one night, Jasper's hand resting on her slightly rounded belly. Not because I need their approval, but because they missed out on so much by judging you so harshly. Jasper kissed her forehead. People can change, Liv. Maybe someday they will. That someday came sooner than expected. One morning, Olivia opened her email to find a message from her mother, Ajay. First direct communication in nearly 2 years. The subject line reads simply, "We should talk." The message itself was brief, mentioning that they'd heard about Jasper's success and thought perhaps it was time to mend fences. No apology, no acknowledgement of the hurt they'd caused, just a thinly veiled response to the change in circumstances. They know, Olivia told Jasper, showing him the email. About the invention, the money, everything. Are you going to respond? He asked carefully. Olivia placed a protective hand over her growing belly. I think I am, but not for the reasons they might expect. Olivia chose the meeting place carefully, a quiet cafe halfway between their new home and her parents' estate. Neutral territory, but somewhere she felt comfortable. She arrived first, selecting a corner table that offered privacy while allowing her to watch the door. When Eleanor and Richard Reed entered, Olivia was struck by how they'd aged in 2 years. Her father's hair had gone completely gray, and her mother's face showed lines that makeup couldn't quite conceal. They spotted her. Immediately, approaching with the measured dignity that had been drilled into them through generations of privilege. Olivia, her mother said, hesitating before leaning in for a perfunctory cheek kiss. You look healthy. Her father simply nodded, pulling out a chair for Eleanor before seating himself. Thank you for agreeing to meet. Olivia placed her hands on the table, her wedding ring catching the light. I was surprised to hear from you after all this time. An uncomfortable silence settled as a server took their order. Olivia noticed her mother's eyes repeatedly drifting to her midsection, though neither parent mentioned the obvious pregnancy. We've been following your husband's success, Richard finally said, clearing his throat. Quite impressive what he's accomplished. Yes, Eleanor added with a tight smile. The feature in Business Innovators was quite flattering. We had no idea his work had such ... potential. Olivia sipped her tea, letting their awkwardness stretch. Jasper's invention will help millions of people access clean water. That was always his goal, long before any recognition or financial reward. Well, Richard shifted, we may have been hasty in our assessment of his prospects. Hasty? Olivia repeated, setting down her cup with deliberate care. You humiliated him publicly. You disowned me. You called our marriage a farce and told me I was dead to you. That goes well beyond hasty, Dad. Eleanor's perfectly manicured hand fluttered nervously. Darling, families have disagreements. Sometimes things are said in the heat of the moment. This wasn't a disagreement, Olivia interrupted. It was a calculated campaign to destroy my relationship and force me to choose between the man I love and my family. And when I chose him, you followed through on every threat. Her father's jaw tightened. We were concerned about your future. Surely you can understand it now that you're about to become a parent yourself. Olivia felt a surge of protectiveness at the mention of her unborn child. What I understand is that love isn't conditional. It doesn't disappear when someone makes choices you disagree with. We'd like to move forward, Eleanor said, reaching tentatively across the table. To be part of your life again, and to meet our grandchild when the time comes. Olivia studied her parents, these people who had shaped her early life, whose approval she had once desperately sought. She saw beneath their polished exterior, to the fear that had driven their actions. Fear of losing control, fear of social judgment, fear of change. I'm willing to try, she said finally. But understand this, Jasper is my husband, my partner, and this baby's father. Any relationship with me includes him, without reservation or judgment. Of course, Richard said quickly. And I need to. Hear you say it, Olivia continued, that you were wrong, that you're sorry for what you did to us. Her parents exchanged glances, decades of ingrained pride making such admission difficult. We were wrong, her father said at last, the words seeming to cost him physically. What we did was ... inexcusable. I'm sorry, Olivia, her mother added, unexpected tears glistening in her eyes. More than you know. Later that evening, as Olivia recounted the meeting to Jasper, he listened with quiet attention. Do you believe them? He asked when she'd finished. I believe they want to be part of our lives now, she replied, nestling into his embrace on their couch. Whether they've truly changed their perspective, or just their strategy remains to be seen. And you're okay with giving them another chance? Olivia placed his hand on her rounded belly, where their child had just delivered a solid kick. I'm doing it for this little one. They deserve to know their grandparents, the real people beneath the pretense. And maybe, just maybe, our child will teach them what really matters. Jasper kissed her temple. You're extraordinary, you know that? After everything they put us through, you still find room for forgiveness. Not forgiveness, she corrected. Not yet, but possibility. They missed our beginning. I'm offering them a chance to be part of what comes next, on our terms. 6 months later, when they welcomed their daughter into the world, Eleanor and Richard Reed sat quietly in the hospital waiting room, alongside Jasper's parents. When Jasper emerged to announce the birth, it was Thomas Wright who stepped forward first, clapping his son on the shoulder with pride. She's beautiful, Thomas declared after seeing his granddaughter. Got your mother's eyes, son. Eleanor approached the hospital bed hesitantly, her usual confidence absent as she gazed at the tiny bundle in Olivia's arms. Would you like to hold her? Olivia offered, surprising herself with the gesture dot as Eleanor carefully cradled her granddaughter. Olivia saw something she'd never witnessed before her mother, completely unguarded, overcome with emotion that no social training could contain. Her name is Hope, Jasper said, standing at Olivia's side. Hope Wright. Richard, watching his wife with their grandchild, cleared his throat. A beautiful name for a new beginning. Later, when they were alone, Jasper perched on the edge of Olivia's hospital bed, their daughter sleeping peacefully between them. Not exactly how we planned things, is it? He mused, stroking Hope's tiny hand with his finger. Olivia smiled, exhausted but content. Better. We built this, our life, our family, on our own terms. No one can ever take that away from us. Outside their window, the sun was setting, painting the sky in brilliant hues of promise. Whatever challenges tomorrow might bring, they would face them together, stronger for having weathered the storm, wiser for having found their way through the darkness, and complete in the family they had created.